Hello everyone and welcome. After a recent sail I took on my Tandem island here in Santa Barbara, I noticed I was getting a lot of water in my hole. It's a bit unusual since I hadn't noticed that much of a problem in the past. I did notice on crossing to Santa Cruz Island that I got quite a bit of water, but that was some really heavy conditions. Normally I don't see this much water in the hole. So after I got home, I ran some bucket tests to see where I might be taking on water. Spoiler alert, it wasn't from any cracks in the hole, at least not that I could see, and it wasn't from the rudder line through holes, but it appears that it was coming from 2 of the 4 hatches. As you can see from this clip, the sailing conditions the day of the test weren't that bad. A few waves and some swell, but nothing beyond what we routinely see in Southern California. I did, however, occasionally dive into some waves, burying the bow and flooding the cockpit. But again, nothing beyond what I typically encounter when sailing out in front of Santa Barbara towards Santa Cruz Island. So first off, I tested the rear hatch. What I did was I placed a knockoff GoPro in the hole and then sealed it up and dumped a 5-gallon bucket of water all around the hatch. And as you can see here, it was pretty much raining through the hatch. A lot of water. Next up, I tested the front hatch. Now it's important to notice a few things. First off, I typically store my spinnaker inside the front hatch if I don't plan to use it on any given trip. So there are 2 lines for the spinnaker that run through the hatch seal. Also, I'm only using one of the 2 hatch seals provided by Hobie. In the past, neither of these has caused any big issues, but this time it really did. Because as you can see from the bucket tests, the water is just really flowing into the hatch. So then I took out the spinnaker, which removed the 2 lines, and then it still only had the single hatch cover seal on it, and then I tested it again just to see what would happen. As you can see here, it removed a lot of the problem, but there's still quite a bit of water coming in if you look to the left side there. So it hasn't been fixed yet. Finally, what I did was I put back on the second seal. So now there's 2 seals on the hatch, and I cinched everything down. Having both seals makes it really hard to get the hatch all the way down. You really got to kind of work it back and forth, and eventually you can get it on there. And then I ran the bucket test again, and it really helped a lot to cut down on the water. There's still a little bit of water that's coming in the hatch, but I think it'll be acceptable. I'll have to really kind of watch it on some longer sails, but we'll see what happens. Happy with the front hatch. I then tested the rear and forward seat hatches. Both of those seem to be okay, at least for now. That could change in the future. Now, a lot of what I've read is that if you put grease on the hatch seals, that'll help to slow down the water. So I cleaned up the seals really well, put some water-resistant grease on there, and then tested it again. It did help considerably, but there was still a lot of water coming through at least one part of the hatch, as you can see here. Pretty much a steady stream. So after that, I then tried a whole bunch of different things. I pulled the hatch to check the gasket between the hatch and the hull of the boat. I tried to add some type of sealing to the hatch seal. None of that worked. So what I ended up doing after a lot of different trials was to get a yoga mat, and I cut it into a circle that's just slightly larger than the hatch. And so by doing that, what happens is when you push this yoga mat down into the hatch, which sits below the hatch cover, it doesn't actually touch the hatch cover, it kind of pushes itself out and creates a pretty good seal. And so you can see here where it sits a little concave on the inside of the boat. So this is looking down at it with the seal in there. And then I ran the test. And as expected, no water came into the boat. And then when I opened the hatch, there was just a little bit of water sitting inside the yoga mat cup, I guess you could call it. So I think this is going to work pretty well. I think even if it fills up with water, I don't think it's going to get past it, or not very much will get past the yoga mat. But I've got to get out there and just really test everything to see what's going to happen. So if you have any questions or comments, let me know below. And if I get this out and test it and notice anything different, I'll post it in the comments below. Thanks, and have a great day.